Today, we're going to be reviewing some Timbrens. In this video, I'll be talking about the load supports I use to tow with my F250 Powerstroke 6.7. I'm primarily towing bumper pull, travel trailers, commercially, and I have these Timbren SES load supports for the rear axle that I've been using for about a year now. When I had originally bought these, my goal hadn't been to tow RVs. So I probably bought these 2 years ago, and I wanted them for the once in a blue moon that I towed a car. I had a bed full of engine parts and wanted to level out the truck a bit more. It wasn't that I was really overloading the truck, but I just didn't want to have that Cali lean, and I was trying to avoid it at all costs. And so I got these. Now, fast forward to now, I've put about 50,000 miles of driving on these. Some of that driving has been with a trailer and some of it has not been with a trailer. So probably done about 20,000 miles of actual hauling with these under a heavy load. When I bought these Timbrens, they were about $300. The construction is solid. They have this steel plate up here, and then it's attached to these two rubber shocks, for lack of a better term, stacked like pumpkins on top of each other. They are made in Canada, and you can see, a couple years, there's a little bit of rust there, where I've scratched the paint off. And the other thing that's interesting to note is, after 50,000 miles of mixed towing and running empty, you can see they have a pretty defined wear mark. So they don't hit the bump stops on my F250 right in the exact center. And I don't really know why that is. I don't think it hurts their performance at all, but that is, just something that I noticed when I took them off here to walk through this. The way you install these is you unscrew the two bolts on your factory bump stop. You take that bump stop off and you put these in its place. They're a substitute for airbags, and after running them for this last year, I have to say, for 300 bucks, they're a great option. They're very sturdy. I did run these through the winter because I know when I was looking at these versus Sumo springs, a lot of folks said that Sumo springs get kind of corroded from salt. And I mean, the rubber on these is perfect. There's a little bit of cracking right there at the seam, but nothing that would indicate needing to replace them, after driving on them for like 50,000 miles. And now typically with me carrying about 1,000 pounds of cargo in the actual truck, I would run these because the travel trailers that I would tow would either put between 500 and 1,200 pounds of tongue weight on the back of my truck. So for an F250, 2,500 pounds is, at least for this truck, the total cargo capacity. So I was running very close to GVWR max, and these really were put to work. I noticed an immediate improvement in cornering stability, both loaded and unloaded, as soon as I installed these. If you're running unloaded, they'll definitely feel harsh and feel really harsh when you're loaded as well. But given that these aren't airbags and it's just a solid rubber bump stop that's resting directly on the frame of the truck, you're going to get more vibration and it's going to feel harsher regardless. I've never run airbags, so I can't speak to whether or not, airbags would be a lot more plush feeling than these. I'm sure if you pump airbags up, they're also pretty harsh. But again, the kind of benefit with airbags is you can deflate them and you can kind of vary, you can have kind of that infinite variance of stiffness depending on the spec of your airbag, where you don't with these. It's just what Timbren makes the stiffness of this rubber at. But for 300 bucks, taking out 4 bolts, I just put anti-seize on them so they don't get all rusted up. And I'll swap back to my normal bump stops when I'm not doing a lot of towing. So like for the last couple weeks, there hasn't been a lot of freight. I haven't been driving a lot and towing a lot, so I switched back to my normal bump stops, and yeah, they've been fine. Let's recap with some quick pros and cons. The pros of these: they're relatively inexpensive, they're easy to install, and they get the job done. They provide great stability when cornering in windy situations, if you're hauling a really heavy load both in your bed and on the tongue of your vehicle. I did not use them in a fifth wheel towing capacity, but I'm sure if you were doing fifth wheel or gooseneck, they would also have a great benefit. The construction is very rugged. They haven't been eaten away by salt at all, and they have a little bit of rubber wear, but virtually none to speak of. The cons with these is that they are really harsh and you can't vary the amount of load support that they give. So whereas an airbag, you can add more air to level the truck out to your desired height. This is what you get. This stiffness, this height, that's what it is. And so they're very vehicle specific. The other thing that's great about airbags and not about these is that airbags you can deflate and go back to having a softer ride once you're done carrying cargo. These things, not so much. The only way really to go back is to put your bump stops back in, your factory bump stops, and then take these out and put them in storage. So at the end of the day, who would I recommend these for? I think if you're towing every day or running your truck loaded every day and you don't see a lot of variance in the weight of the load you're towing, aka the weight you're putting in your bed is fairly consistent, and you don't really see yourself minding a little bit of added harshness when going over bumps on the highway or on secondary roads, these are great. Also great if you don't want to spend a ton of money, because these are, you know, $250, $300. They're not going to break the bank. If you want to be able to vary your load or deflate and you don't want to have to crawl underneath your truck with a wrench and undo 4 bolts and constantly be swapping these in and off or on and off because, you know, every week is different for you and you're always towing a different weighted load in your bed, then I would maybe invest in some airbags. And I think, you know, these are definitely for someone who's looking for something budget friendly. I mean, they hit the mark, right? Like they're very solid, you know, minor rust after a winter of hard use, and the material is great. It just isn't as convenient as running airbags when you can just inflate stuff. So I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for watching this review. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time here on Power Stroke Maintenance. Cheers.